City Reformed Presbyterian Church Spring Reading Program in the Gospel of Matthew, Day 11, the Lord's Prayer. Matthew 6, verses 9 through 13. The words of Jesus. Pray then like this: Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. This brief instruction on prayer has become one of the most famous prayers in human history. Known as the Lord's Prayer, it is treasured by Christians of all denominations. It is frequently used as a prayer that large groups of people can say together. It also forms a basis for constructing a theology of prayer. For example, it is the outline for the theology of prayer in Reformed documents such as the Westminster Catechisms, the Heidelberg Catechism, and John Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion. It is also used in Lutheran, Baptist, and Roman Catholic catechisms. When I conduct funeral services for people who are not regular church attenders, I usually find that the Lord's Prayer is one of the few things that most people know about Christianity. Like the entirety of the Sermon on the Mount, there is a similar but divergent form of this prayer presented in the Gospel of Luke. It is possible that Luke abbreviated his teaching on this topic. I believe it's more likely that Jesus talked about prayer on numerous occasions, and they just recorded different things. Given how often in the four Gospels Jesus was noted for having a vibrant prayer life, it would be expected that people wanted to talk to him about prayer. When we consider the differences between the Lord's Prayer in Matthew versus Luke, it highlights the fact that the primary purpose of this prayer was not to give us the perfect words to say, but rather to model the simplicity of true prayer. It is a reasonable thing to recite the words of this prayer with other people. It is a celebration of our common Christian heritage, but the more important application is for us to pray for the types of things which Jesus highlights here. The following are brief observations about this famous prayer. The prayer begins with a reference to our Father and continues to use plural language throughout. The prayer reminds us that we are meant to pray together and share our concerns with one another. We can recognize 6 different requests in the prayer. Typically, these are called, quote, petitions. The first 3 petitions focus on big picture things: God's name to be set apart or hallowed, His kingdom to come, and His will to be done. This stirs us to turn our attention away from ourselves to God's purposes. If we begin our prayer by focusing on God, we are more likely to continue in the right direction. The second 3 petitions turn our attention to more personal things: daily bread, our daily needs such as bread, forgiveness, and protection from the temptation and the tempter. It is helpful to start with a big Godward focus in our prayers, but we are then invited to bring our personal needs to God. There are no prayers too small for our Heavenly Father. The King James Version of the Bible includes a final statement, quote, "For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever," end quote. This was likely a later addition to the text, as it is not found in the earliest Greek manuscripts. A further note on this is found on our online blog as I describe it more. For this reason, the ESV Bible does not include that verse as part of the Lord's Prayer. However, the sentiment is certainly a biblical idea, and praying for God's kingdom, power, glory is found in many Bible verses such as 1 Chronicles 29:11, Psalm 45:11, and Daniel 2:37. When we say the Lord's Prayer at church, we usually just call this the, quote, traditional ending. Finally, the long-standing importance of the Lord's Prayer can be seen in the way many people intuitively use the older English forms of this prayer when they say it. Even though my home church never used the King James Bible, I was still taught to say this prayer in the King James Bible language of, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." There's nothing wrong with praying this way. Again, it honors our heritage. But we should remember that Jesus did not speak King James English, nor did Matthew write this way. Furthermore, the ESV also favors the language of debts and debtors as the subject of forgiveness, while many Christians prefer to speak of trespasses. There are shades of meaning that are not insignificant, but it would be a shame if disagreement about words clouded our ability to say this prayer with others. In conclusion, the greatest response to this part of the Sermon on the Mount is that it would draw us to pray to our Father in heaven in ways that are simple, honest, and direct.